Welcome to the Healers Café, the number one show for medical practitioners and holistic healers to have heart to heart conversations about their day to day lives while sharing their expertise for improving your health and wellness. So, welcome to the Healers Cafe. And today I have Cheryl Meyer, and she's otherwise known as Cheryl M Health Muse. And once upon a time, she was a successful solopreneur in the jewelry design business and making seven-figure business. And one day she woke up with excruciating pain. So, um, if this wasn't a common story, you you would think that, this happens and this is so rare. And of course, you found a solution. You went to the doctor, you took some pills, and they worked, right? No.
Right. No. I went to the doctor. She ran 5 rounds of tests and said, "Guess what? There's nothing wrong with you." I
Right.
said, "That's ludicrous. I can't function. I can't move. I hurt."
Yeah. Okay. And then it's in your head. We haven't met yet, but this is basically, I'm looking at the other stories I've heard. It's all in your head. Are you suffering from depression? Are you sure you don't want to take sort of antidepressants? Right?
Yep.
Part of the story. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
But
then,
she did say, "I'll give you steroids because
oh,
since
right.
you say you hurt, I'll give you steroids for that." I'm not
Right.
taking steroids if I don't need them. I'm
No, no. And
hopefully never taking steroids, period.
no, and that's because you had inflammation, and that's the magic drug for inflammation in our, very developed allopathic model of, let's say, it's not patient care even. I think it's patient stagnation. It's disease management. Actually,
That
that
is what it is.
which is really a good name for it because all they do is manage the disease and, inadvertently by some, because I think there are some innocent people in that field, but everyone who's woken up feels like a charlatan or like they're peddling drugs or like something has changed. And I have quite a few MD friends, and they're getting very tired of their role. And it didn't used to be that way. I think there was a little bit more. I'm not saying that, it wasn't always the intent of it, but it's, from the Rockefeller Foundation and
Right.
everything.
And there's reasons, their number one source of information is their pharmaceutical rep.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. And, you put two and two together and you go, gee, what does this have to do with healing and health? Right. Okay. So let's start with what happened to you because obviously something changed. And what were you? Why don't you go through the whole story and from the point of view that somebody could follow going, gee, that's a good thing. Maybe I should do that next. Or, how did you go? How did you deal with this?
Okay. Well, let me tell you first, my body was talking to me long before I paid attention. I have a joke that when the universe wants me to get something, first it slaps me on the shoulder, then I get the NCIS slap, and then finally the 2x4 comes down. So I waited for the 2x4 to come down. I was so focused on keeping my business going. I was sort of like, shush, I don't want to hear you. And I want everyone to learn to listen to their body because their body is very smart. So that's my first tip to everybody. But I woke up one morning and everything hurt. I thought, do I have the flu? What the heck's going on here? And after 5 days, it hadn't gotten better. So I went to the doctor, started getting tests run, 5 rounds of tests, nothing wrong with me. Baloney. I knew something was wrong, but I said to her, I'm going to dig into this and I'm going to find out what's wrong with me. She said, "Oh, you'll be back." I said, "No, I probably won't." And I was really lucky because I tripped into what's now known as the functional medical community.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
this was 14 years ago. At the time, they were all fairly new as functional doctors, and they were running all kinds of symposiums. And I watched 19 of them with multiple doctors. And I
Mhm.
made notes. I started writing down what their threads were. And the first thing that caught my attention was they all either got sick themselves and couldn't help themselves,
Mhm.
or they had a loved one get sick that they couldn't help. So they
Mhm.
ended up going for the additional functional medical training, which means they looked at the whole body and not just at a body part that was causing trouble. And
Mhm.
so that's where I started, and I was lucky. But I wrote down notes like toxic load. What was toxic load?
Mhm.
Um, about the fact that I should be eating organic, real food,
Mhm.
which resonated with me. That was logical. So I
Mhm.
started looking into what does that mean and how could I do that? And as I learned things, I started to implement. I started researching all the toxins in my life, and I was appalled because they were everywhere. They were in my food. They were in the way my food was grown. They were in the processed food. Everything that went in or on or near my body was toxic. And
Mhm.
things like the cosmetic industry functions by monitoring itself, and they're
Mhm.
not doing a good job at it.
Yeah.
So the first thing I looked up on a website called ewg.org was my face makeup. And it was an expensive French brand that was a 9 out of 10 on toxicity. So literally, I had been poisoning myself right through my skin. And I got angry. Why was my government allowing me to be poisoned? And I mention that because I can't tell you how many people along the course of my journey said, my government wouldn't allow me to get poisoned. Oh, yeah,
Right.
it is every day. And so I decided I found a man named Howard Lyman who wants us all to be an army of one and own it ourselves and search for what we need. And I decided I was going to be an army of one. So I dug in. I found a woman named Dr. Deanna Minich who believes in eating the rainbow of all the different colors of organic food because each color has different gifts for the body. So I started going to farmers markets, buying
Mhm.
my food as close to the farm as I could because things like spinach lose 30% of their potency within 3 days. I
Right.
wanted to get stuff into my body, on my body, and around my environment that would stop poisoning me so that I was determined I was going to get well. And I never doubted that I would find what I needed to reverse what was going on with my body. So that's important too, because as I work with clients now, I have learned that if they don't believe it's possible, then it's
Yeah.
not going to happen. I'm working with someone with MS right now whose doctor keeps telling him his disease is going to progress.
Yeah.
And I
Oh, yeah.
said, okay, your tour this week is to have a conversation with him to stop saying that. Because as long as he says it and you believe it, guess what? That's
Mhm.
exactly what's going to happen. You
Mhm.
have to believe that you are the captain of your ship, you are the creator, and you can change the direction of your health if you start to change your environment. One of the people I started following was Dr. Bruce Lipton, who discovered and formed the theory of epigenetics that our genetics have nothing to do with what we get. It
Mhm.
has to do with our body and what the environment is like that
Mhm.
that genetics is sitting in. So if you're constantly putting in toxins, which are poison, guess
Mhm.
what? You're going to get sick. If you're constantly eating the ultra processed diet, which is fake food, you're not giving your body anything to run on. So guess what? You're going to get sick. So you have to change your environment and start doing things that give your body the opportunity to return back to balance. That really became the key. It didn't happen overnight. It took me 5 years to eliminate every toxin I could find in my air, in my perfume,
Right.
in the cleaning materials that I had, in my
Mhm.
food, in my um, pots and pans, and the things that I was cooking with, and what I was storing my food in the water coming out of my tap. It took me 5 years to get rid of all of that poison.
Right.
And so I'll tell you, it's not easy. You have to have an intention. You have to stay focused. I did it systematically, category by category. But
Mhm.
in 5 years, I started to feel pretty darn good again. And I went on Medicare and found my own functional doctor. And even that wasn't easy. There is a site called ifm.org where you can put in your zip code and they pop up, but none of them at the time took any kind of insurance. And so I ended up driving 2 hours to the
Mhm.
person who I thought could help me. And it was worth it because
Mhm.
she took me to the next level. She knew things that I hadn't found, like that I had all kinds of food sensitivities. And it
Right.
ended up, I had 19 of them. And by eliminating those, wow, it was instant pain relief. And I
Wow.
stopped having flares every other day. So it's like
Yeah.
finding your jigsaw puzzles, but you stay so focused and so convinced that you're going to find all your puzzle pieces. You just keep going until you start feeling great. And
Mhm.
that's the goal. I
Mhm.
had felt lousy for years and thought that was the way I was supposed to feel because by the
Mhm.
time I got sick, I was already 63. Well, today I'm 77 and I feel way better than I did in my 40s and my 50s. So it's not age. It has to do with how I live my life and what I've done with my environment to
Yeah.
create a life that's clean, that supports me, and it is so worth it.
Right. Now, how did you get that, like, deep knowing that you're going to find a solution and you just need to keep going?
What would your life be like if you were pain free? If you were one of the millions who suffer from chronic pain, the thought of just one day without it may seem impossible. This is often because conventional medicine tends to fall short in the treatment of pain, opting to prescribe pills or recommend surgery rather than getting to the root cause of the problem. But if you are suffering with emotional or physical pain, there is hope. Join the founder and CEO of Bowen College, Manon Boliger, live online for your body-mind reboot. Learn how to listen to your symptoms and get to the root cause of your pain. Plus, be trained in basic Bowen therapy moves so that you can reboot your body for optimal health. You don't have to live in pain. You can heal. Stop the pain pill cycle by visiting www.yourbodymindreboot.com to learn more and to register.
Well, in a lot of ways, I was lucky because I grew up with two parents whose
Mhm.
favorite thing to say to me was I could do anything I set my mind to.
Okay. Okay.
And
So,
both of my parents got unusual diseases. My father
mhm.
got a very rare epilepsy, and he was a scientist, so he was constantly researching because he wanted to help
Mhm.
himself with that. And then my mother got something called multiple system atrophy, which
Mhm.
is related to Parkinson's, but not Parkinson's. So nobody in the heck out there in the doctor field had a clue what to do with her. And so
Wow.
I started digging into medical journals and finding things myself. So when I
Mhm.
would go to medical appointments with them, I would raise questions. Have you thought of this? Could we try that? And the response in the beginning from their doctors was,
Mhm.
who's the doctor here? And
Right.
my response was, who's the daughter? My mother's doctor, I said, how many patients do you have? He said, several hundred. I said, well, I only have one mother. So
Mhm.
could we do this together? Because I can concentrate on things that might help her that you're not
Mhm.
going to find because you have 200 of her.
Mhm. Mhm.
And she was
Good point.
supposed to only live 2 years, and she lived 10. And
Mhm.
when she died, he called me and said, I wish everybody had a daughter like you. He said, because
Wow.
our success was because we did do it together.
Mhm. Yeah.
So
Well,
I
good for them.
knew that if I dug into whatever was going on with my
Mhm.
body, which was
Mhm.
not even given a diagnosis,
Yeah.
um, that I was going to find it. And I was determined that I was going to find it. Ended up, I had fibromyalgia,
Mhm.
Hashimoto's, IBS. I had type 2 diabetes that my doctor had missed, and it was bad. My A1C was 7.7. I mean, it was high.
Mhm.
And so, and then as I started working with my functional doctor, I also discovered by accident that I had a fatty liver.
Right. Okay.
So, and that wasn't a surprise since I had the diabetes and I had eaten poorly for 63 years of my life.
Right.
So that became a concentration to learn everything I could learn about the liver, which is the workhorse of the body. So
Yeah.
if your
Yep.
liver isn't healthy, it impacts everything else going on in your body. And it's actually ends up it's the number one cause of heart disease. So
Mhm.
you need to follow the threads that you discover as you research, and you need to take it seriously that each of these little gems is going to get you one step closer to feeling great. And
Mhm.
that's what I did. I am now 14 years away from
Mhm.
starting this journey. I still have some puzzle pieces I'm looking for.
Mhm.
Somebody who follows me on Facebook said, "Are you really as healthy as you say you are?" I said, "Well, I feel great every day. I pop out of bed happy as heck because the food I eat turns on all my happy hormones."
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah,
Sure.
I am as healthy as I tell you I am, but that doesn't mean I'm healthy as it is. And you never stop looking for your pieces.
Right. Right. Now, so how in your search, right? So I understand the background where you knew that researching was something that could be done,
Yep.
right? So that's a lot of people just think that somehow doctors know everything and they don't research. And part of it is true. They don't research because a lot of times now, it's like they're overwhelmed by crazy, silly hours where you don't get to know your patient or client at all. And then they have these, reps that tell them, well, this will fix that and that. And so it's like, okay, you know what? I'll just use the cookbook rather than use my brain, and go deeper. And so I think a lot of the art of really asking questions and getting to the root of things um, has been lost. Not for
And
everyone.
I actually read that from when something new gets discovered,
Hmm.
it's discovered in whatever its minute field is in. And it can take as long as 15 years
Hmm.
before it will get into the general medical journal that your doctor might read it. So
Right. Yeah.
your thing is you want to find it early. If there's
Yeah.
something new that you want to pull the thread on and question, and I have formed partnerships with every doctor I've had, and
Yeah.
I will go to anybody who can help me. I have a naturopath, I
Mhm.
have a functional doctor, I have a regular doctor, and they all know I'm in charge of my health. You are
Yeah.
my partner, you
Hmm.
are my advisor, and we're going to take care of my health together.
Hmm.
And I currently have a conventionally trained doctor who lives holistically. So
Hmm.
he gets it. And his theory is you do the least invasive first. And then if you have to, then you can go to taking that serious medication or doing that surgery or whatever it is. But we always start with the least invasive. And
Yeah.
you need to find those doctors that you believe will support your body in finding holistic solutions. And it doesn't mean I don't take drugs because the drug can mitigate whatever's going on in my body until I can change my lifestyle enough to start to cure it. And the
Hmm.
doctor knows if I'm going to take a drug, I'm going to research it. I'm going to know what the downside is because they all come with gifts, both good and bad.
Yeah.
And so if I start to get better, then he's going to help me wean off of that medication because I'm not taking it forever.
Right.
And one of the first things I had to learn is there is no magic pill.
Hmm. Hmm.
You are the magic pill. People my age think they're going to find the magic pill and boom, they're going to feel better and be able to live out life. It doesn't exist. You
Yeah.
are the magic pill, and your lifestyle changes are the magic that your body can convert to wellness. So you have to own it. You have to question, you have to research, and there's probably some bad information out there as well as good information.
Yeah.
So I found doctors that I trusted, and that's where I would start as I researched each subject.
Hmm.
But you can do it. And then you go to whoever your caretaker is and you have a robust conversation with them so that you're sure you stay on track for getting the best possible solution for your body.
Hmm.
He's
No,
not
that
in
makes
your
sense.
body, he doesn't know how you feel.
No, no, exactly. So the research part I get, the drive that you're going to get on top of this and that well no that not that one sorry because I think that you were an entrepreneur before so
Right.
I know where drive comes from so I
Yeah, and
think
I'm an A personality, which doesn't help
okay
because
so,
my stress level was so out of control. I shot up and used up all my cortisol and was
right
borderline Addison's disease when I got sick.
I
So
see
that was one of the first places I had to dig in and get under control.
okay so actually that's interesting let's go there for one moment um how did you choose to get that under control out of all
Um,
the methodologies out there and things what did you do?
well, I decided I was going to take a yoga class,
Okay.
but I don't like yoga where they're going to tie me into a knot.
Okay.
So I looked until I found a local class, which was by a company called Body and Brain, and they're all over the country. And they do a Tao yoga that's a combination of some yoga, some isometric,
Mhm.
some general wellness, mind over body. It was a
Mhm.
combination of everything.
Okay.
And I have to add to it, while I was looking for this yoga class, I had also been in a long-term relationship with a man who wasn't going to change for me. He was not going to let me dictate how he was going to eat. He was not going to adopt any healthy habits. And so after many years, we had to break, which was just all additional stress, which
Right.
didn't help the situation.
Mhm.
So I found my yoga class and then I dug in what were other solutions. And I found a man who started integrative medicine called Dr.
Mhm.
Andrew Weil. And he had
Mhm.
come up with, at that point, which was 15 years ago. Now there are all kinds of breathing exercises, but I do his breathing
Mhm.
exercise,
Okay.
which takes 4 minutes
Yeah.
to go through the rounds and it releases all the tension in your nervous system and lets you take the top off your stress so you can function again.
Thank you for joining us at the Healers Cafe. If you haven't already done so, please like, comment, and subscribe with notifications on as I post a new podcast every Wednesday with tons of useful information and tips for natural healing that you won't want to miss.
What would your life be like if you were pain-free? If you were one of the millions who suffer from chronic pain, the thought of just one day without it may seem impossible. This is often because conventional medicine tends to fall short in the treatment of pain, opting to prescribe pills or recommend surgery rather than getting to the root cause of the problem. But if you are suffering with emotional or physical pain, there is hope. Join the founder and CEO of Bowen College, Manon Boliger, live online for your body-mind reboot. Learn how to listen to your symptoms and get to the root cause of your pain. Plus, be trained in basic Bowen therapy moves so that you can reboot your body for optimal health. You don't have to live in pain. You can heal. Stop the pain pill cycle by visiting www.yourbodymindreboot.com to learn more and to register.
That's for sure. Yeah. So, it's kind of funny. It's like just not, they're just doing a job without
Right.
consciousness many times, and that's how we got into the latest, fiasco of crazy cancers and everything from these so-called, mRNA shots and I mean, it's just crazy, and people still believe this idea that the governments are all good for us and authority is good, and we really have to question everything. We have to question our education. We have to question our health, everything about it,
And
and
you
our
have to take the
environment.
time to look into it. We had just
Absolutely.
gotten rid of glyphosate because, and Bayer has paid out $80 million to people who got the lymphoma that
Yeah.
glyphosate, which is Roundup, which
Yeah,
is
yeah.
sprayed everywhere. It's
Yep.
sprayed on your food, it's sprayed in your schoolyard, it's sprayed on your public places, your dog is walking in it. We had just gotten everyone to start to wean themselves off of that for weeds, and we're talking about weeds. Would you want
Mhm.
to get sick and some kind of cancer, or would you want to get rid of weeds? So we finally did that, and now Bayer has gotten the government to reverse all that. And they're going to
Right.
start spraying it on everything
On
again.
food now. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's been on our food
No,
all
I know,
along.
but yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
No,
and
I know, I
we
know.
wheat
Yep.
gets drenched in it because it makes it give them a bigger yield.
Yeah.
And so anytime you eat anything with conventional wheat, you are poisoning yourself with glyphosate.
Yep. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, it's really a big problem if people don't look at all of those things, you know. It's yeah,
And
we have
question
to.
it.
Hmm.
I'm not
Hmm.
your who said of the greatest magnitude either. But when you hear me say something, look into it. See if I'm
Hmm.
right. See
Hmm.
if that would help you.
Right. No, for sure. Okay, well, you know what? Our time's like up. So-
Okay. Sorry about that.
but why don't you give us where people can find out more about you and your resources? That would be wonderful, and
I have
thank
two
you.
books on Amazon. All the steps I took step by step to get rid of all the toxins. That's
Okay.
won 17 awards because no one has a layman had explained it step by step before. And it's got a huge bibliography in the back of all the people I follow that I go to for information. So the book
Wow.
is like gold. Then my functional doctor asked me to write the second one was, okay, you don't live in an isolated life. So how do you live in society and follow all these rules now that you
Hmm.
don't want to deviate from? So I
Hmm.
wrote Living Low Toxin, and that's
Hmm.
also up on Amazon and it's won
Okay.
8 awards. So those two books, and those are things like how do I vet a restaurant? How do I go to
Right.
somebody else's house for dinner without driving them nuts that they have to cook
Yeah.
a special way for me? All those things are in the second book. So then I have started doing tons of free resources, and they're all up on issue as flip books. I did an
Okay.
A to Z magazine, which will tell you things like what were my signs that I was getting sick that I ignored? What are all my healthy habits that I want you to
Hmm.
adopt? Because some of them may not seem logical. Getting 7 hours of sleep is one of them, because that sixth to seventh hour is when all the plaque gets swept out of your brain. So
Hmm.
it's important. So I have all of that in there. My functional doctor wrote an article, my naturopath wrote an
Hmm.
article,
Hmm.
my toxin expert
Hmm.
wrote an article who's created a plant enzyme cleaning material, and she
Hmm.
has low toxin resources on her website.
Okay.
Um, Community is #1 for health. So a
Hmm.
woman who started Chemo Buddies, which is not to
Hmm.
tell you what to do if you get cancer, but
Hmm.
to give you love and a community because no one should go through it alone, wrote an
Yeah.
article.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
A woman who had two botched back surgeries, who
Yeah.
ended up at the um, same towel group has a big thing here in Sedona. They have a 500-acre retreat. She ended up there and finally got her life back. And they did a documentary that ended up on PBS called Love
Okay.
Heals. So they
Well,
wrote an article. So the articles
yeah.
are
Yeah.
great. You will learn a ton, and they will give you places to, what do I do when I go to a convention and I want to take my own food? All of that is in my magazine. Then I wrote a
Right.
book because people were confused on what to eat. And my
Mhm.
rule is if there's a word on that label that you don't know or can't pronounce, you just put it back on the shelf. You don't
Yeah.
put it in your body. But I decided I needed to break it down. So I wrote, how did we get into this mess? What exactly is ultra processed food? Because it will make you throw up.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
what
It's
should
horrible.
you be eating? And I don't care if you're vegan, vegetarian, paleo, pagan, pescatarian. I don't care. I give you the rules because it starts with I want 70% of it to be organic plant food. And
Right.
I
Right.
explain why organic, and I
Hmm.
explain
Hmm.
how important the vagal nerve is and
Hmm.
how important fiber is because you don't get
Hmm.
any fiber in ultra processed food and you
No.
need it because that's how your information system works.
Right.
It takes everything gets piggyback on that fiber and goes over to your vagal nerve, which delivers it everywhere. So that book is there. My stress book, I have a 3-minute guide to stress exercises to keep on your desk because it's
Okay.
that important. And if you keep it on your desk, maybe you'll remember to pick it up and pick one of the exercises and do them. So that's there. Then I started really feeling like my big problem that I got sick from was because I was not practicing self-care or self-love. So I
Mhm.
wrote a book called Radical Self-Care because it's not just taking a bubble bath at night. It's everything in your life that will help you be the best that you can be.
Right.
And I have adopted things like heart math, which
Hmm.
helps me get out of my brain,
Regulate.
which
Yep.
talks trash to me, and go into my heart, which is your
Mhm.
second brain and has
Mhm.
as many neurons as your brain does.
I
But
think we're going
it
to send people to your site. I've got to
Yeah,
cut
but
you
it
off.
will allow you to communicate with the universe in a language that can hear you. And I love it. It is
Exactly.
the most
Exactly.
relaxing thing I could possibly do. So that's in there. The importance of
Okay.
glutathione and milk thistle and all the things I did to take care of my healthy liver. It's all there and they're all in flip books on issue. You can get to that by going to Cheryl M Health Muse, which I have at the bottom,
Yep.
.com. And on the front page, it will lead you to all my books, but any book that you go to will lead you to all of them.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your time, but also all this work that you've put out. It really makes it a lot easier when people
It became my
get a
mission and my
diagnosis.
passion. I
Yeah,
figured out
absolutely.
that I needed to sell the business and change the direction of my life.
Right.
And it has been remarkably fulfilling, but you have to believe it and you have to implement as
Yeah.
you learn, or
Yeah.
nothing will change.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you for having me. I obviously get excited and I love to talk about this stuff. So thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to your audience.
Thank you for joining us at the Healers Cafe. If you haven't already done so, please like, comment, and subscribe with notifications on as I post a new podcast every Wednesday with tons of useful information and tips for natural healing that you won't want to miss.